Jesus has compassion on the crowds. He sees the crowds and he has compassion. And it says that he had compassion because he saw that they were like sheep without a shepherd. Now, when we hear this phrase, and I've done this before, we tend to have in our minds a kind of a pastoral image, right? Jesus is filled with these compassionate feelings, and he's like, they're just so lost. They just need a shepherd. They need to be cared for and loved. And we think of, you know, sheep need a shepherd, or pastoring and just caring for people. That's actually not really the Jewish image of a shepherd. The Jewish image in Jewish literature, the leaders who were called shepherds were Moses, Joshua, King David, and a few others. It was actually the military leaders of the Old Testament that were referred to as shepherds. And so what's happening here with Jesus is decrying and lamenting the lack of father figures that they had at this time, the failure of the priests, the scribes, and the Pharisees to appropriately and properly teach the people God's ways and to be spiritual fathers to that generation. The absolute failure, the abject failure of that. And so when he says they're like sheep without a shepherd, he's saying, look, there's a whole generation of people starved for a spiritual father, starved so much that they will, without thought, they'll run on foot, probably for some time, ahead of the boat to a desolate place without food. That's how desperate they are. Now, we might think, when we read this passage, we might think, oh, this is isn't one of the applications here like compassion for the hungry, feeding the hungry? Isn't that kind of what's going on here? No, that's actually not what's going on in this passage. There are other passages in the Bible we could point to saying care for the poor and the needy and feed the hungry. And yeah, that's a big Christian value. We should care about that. We should do that, absolutely. But that's not what this passage is talking about. And we know that for a couple of reasons. One is the disciples came saying, we need to send everyone away. It's getting late. If we send them away, they can go into the surrounding villages and they can buy for themselves food. The people were not going to die. They could have gone and taken care of this themselves. So we know that. We also know that Jesus having compassion happened before he knew that any of them didn't have food. His compassion is based on something else. His compassion is based on this issue of not having a shepherd. And in this context, not having a shepherd by Jesus in a Jewish context here means they're fatherless. This is a generation of people who are fatherless. And this is why he's come. This is why he's here. This is what he's doing. Jesus sees a group of people who are lost, who don't have a family identity. They are isolated and struggling without purpose. And this is what happens when you don't have fathers, or you don't have good fathers, we could say. When you like and subscribe, this video reaches more people.